I think it's hard to not look at the season as a Bucks fan and go, hopefully, knock on wood, they weathered the storm of this first half, and now that they're mostly healthy, they're not going to go full throttle, but they can win a little bit more, really get ready for the playoffs, and then, that's their real season. Now, Bobby Portis being out makes it less fun, but still, I think it's getting to see some of these ball handlers, and especially Khris Middleton, healthy again. Now it's like, okay, it's the fun part of the season. Now it's the basketball we really wanted when we had to watch, everybody else doing a lot more, and it wasn't quite as fun or as successful.
Are we closing in on the end of the Khris Middleton era in Milwaukee?
I doubt it. Okay. No extension. He has a player option. Really, I have no idea what he's going to do with that player option, to be honest with you. My best guess is at this point, he takes the player option for a year and either extends on that or just waits on that for a little while. Obviously, fully healthy Khris Middleton, I think, is a guy the Bucks don't hesitate to give a couple more years at 40, 50 million, whatever it ends up being by the end of it. But he hasn't been that, right? Pretty clearly. I mean, played 7 games before now coming back again since April or May or whenever it was that he went out against the Bulls in last year's playoffs. So, it's that's the complicating factor, I think, is health. But I still think they'll figure it out. I mean, you look around the league, the true cap space teams for next season, it's like, is Khris going to go sign with the Spurs because he can make a little bit more? I doubt it. I don't think so. I don't think he wants that. I think they'll figure it out. It's probably the most tenuous it's been since Khris was first traded to the Bucks. But I'm not all that worried, and I do think even with the injury consideration, they'll figure out a way to keep him around at least for another year or two. I look at 2024 as a potential pivot from Khris and Jrue, or at least one of them, to a bit of a younger co-star around Giannis. That's when they'll have more picks to trade that offseason. So I think we're going to see at least one more year.
Do you think most Bucks fans feel this way? Or are they kind of tired of the injury stuff? Are they kind of turning where they're like, we love Khris, obviously he was an instrumental part of winning a title, but like the availability has to matter at some point. And it's like, we can't win the title if we have to count on Khris Middleton year over year. And it's just, have we already seen the best, healthiest version of Khris Middleton in Milwaukee? Because that could be the difference in Giannis getting another ring and not. And like with Jrue playing as well as he has, like, is it kind of one of those just looming things for a lot of Bucks fans? So it's like, yeah, we get it. Like 2024 might be the end there, but like, hey, we're still trying to win a title right now, and he's just not been available. And do you trust him for another full playoff run?
I think Bucks fans are kind of split. I think I would say half and half. It's probably less than half that are like upset or whatever word you want to use with Khris or tired of Khris. But the thing about Khris Middleton and Bucks fans is there's always been a vocal minority of very anti Khris Middleton Bucks fans who are like, he's not good enough. He can't be the second guy. He can't even
after the title.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Doesn't stop. They got lucky. Whatever. You look at all the bad games he had in the playoff run. Blah 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 blah. And I think maybe you could say he couldn't be the true second guy, but clearly he and Jrue are both good enough to be the 2.5 guy is what I say. Like clearly that works. I think that they still haven't lost a playoff series when they've all played together. Limited sample, but it's pretty impressive. But I don't think we've seen the last. I think it's going to be interesting from here, like the rest of this season, which I think is why there is no extension and no long-term decision on Khris. Is everybody, the Bucks included, wants to see, what is he going to look like in this playoff run? I'll say this. I kind of sounded like Foghorn Leghorn there for a second. This second return, even though he's not playing many minutes, I think that the tape looks good. I think you really look at him and you go, yeah, it's Khris. That's Khris Middleton. They're going to be safe with him, but what he's doing in 15 and now 20 minutes, there's no reason why he can't do the same. Doesn't get much separation, but nails the shot anyway, draws contact, finishes through it, all the Khris stuff. He'll be able to do that in 30 minutes too. It's just about ramping him up safely. So I think it'll a little bit depend, but personally, I think he'll be okay. I think you look at his injuries, they're mostly unrelated. It's kind of fluky stuff, and I think what killed him this year was his ramp up was so thrown off by the surgery. And going back to his Texas A&M days, the reason he fell in the draft was a knee injury he suffered that he always kind of ramps up his season prep for, and that was disturbed. And then whether it's getting sick, which whatever went through the Bucks and a lot of the NBA, like George Hill said he lost 10 pounds So I think that went through. Khris suffered with a couple other things. His father passed away at one point and he was away from the team. So I think it's kind of been like the year from hell for Khris. So I'm optimistic that it's not just like, oh, he's prone now to getting injured. I think he suffered through a couple things that maybe not random, but it's not like, oh, Chris's knee again is acting up like it always does. It's kind of a new thing to bother him in season. So certainly hoping that he can put this behind him and with the right ramp up. And the Bucks, who are great at this, I mean, you look at how Brook Lopez is playing at his age after his injury status. I think you've kind of got to trust them, both, practically that you're not going to trade Khris and get better this deadline, and just, to root for a guy who's been a Buck for 10 years and really done a lot for the franchise.
So there's no trade for Khris Middleton that could make you better post-deadline?
Not at the deadline. I don't think so. I don't even think at the offseason. The problem is, this has always been the problem with Bucks fans who are like, we got to trade Khris. Okay, for who? You're going to trade him for a younger, better player? Why? Why is the other team like, yeah, sure, we'd love to do? No, it doesn't make any sense. Usually the older players get traded for like developmental guys and picks, and that's great for the Raptors, who are, right where they're going. We don't really know. We have Scotty Barnes. Maybe we can be good next year with Pascal still here, but whatever.
Like you're not getting OG or even like OG Anunoby and like Gary Trent for Khris Middleton's not happening, something like that.
I mean, I don't think it would. And even if it did, like, does that improve your odds this year over Khris if he's healthy?
Yeah.
Like, you kind of need that elite shot making, and you kind of lose that in that deal. So, and again, I don't think the Raptors would even want to do that. I mean, I had someone tell me the other day, like, what they should do is Khris and their 1 first for Pascal Siakam. And I was like, yeah, they should do that. The Raptors will never do that, ever. They should trade him for Nikola Jokic, too, I think. But good luck convincing the other team. So I just don't think there's ever really been a logical Khris trade. I think it would have to be off-season, and it would have to be like them bundling, like, Khris on a sign and trade or like expiring or something, and a lot of picks to get someone younger, and maybe even a 3-way trade. I just don't see anything that is going to make them better right now. And as you know, I mean, contending teams don't really like to shift the whole rotation in the regular season if they have to. I think the Bucks will go get Crowder and drop him in like they did with PJ 2 years ago. But I don't think they want to trade Khris right now and try to refigure out everything that they do, 3 months before the playoffs.
Nate has no problems changing up the rotation each and every game.
Neither does Mark Daigneault, so maybe it's not that big of a deal. I hear the Thunder are just like playing some different guys all the time. Maybe because I mean,
the Thunder
I certainly
aren't real outside of SGA.
Yeah.
Like there's like 2 Jalen Williams on the Thunder right now. You just go through it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm ever going to have a good grasp on who the Thunder is until they start really contending. Like it's chaos. Like I don't know.
There's so many young guys. Yeah. I'm like, which one are they trying to trade again? Which one do they love? I'm not sure. There's way too many.
Yeah. When did Andre Roberson leave? When did he? Because like I saw he got signed by the Blue yesterday, which is I don't understand how that happened. Or they traded for him. Like, where is Andre Roberson? Where has he been?
I don't know where he's been.
Man, those are good times. Andre Roberson just hanging out in the corner on title teams and just hoping for a prayer. Has Giannis been any different than the last 2 years? Because it was interesting to see like around the league what people wanted to do for their first team All-Stars, and most were leaving Giannis out of their first team this year. And I wondered how much of those people were actually watching Giannis night in, night out. As someone who is watching Giannis night in, night out, do you think he has been... I don't want to say worse, because it's like he's still an MVP level player. It's like I hate using the word worse with him, but like, is he doing anything differently this year, or is it just Joel Embiid is playing at another level, Kevin Durant when we saw these playing at another level? Like, what is real with Giannis this year as opposed to the last 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, people have just gotten tired of him to a certain extent, because it's like you say, I mean, people, you hear all the talk, and I think, I listen to the Lowe post a lot, and I love Zach Lowe, but every time Giannis comes up in like the little MVP or All-Star, it's like, the efficiency's really down and everything else. And it's like 32, 12, and 5, and the Bucks have been one of the best 5 teams in the league all season. Like.